Hello!
Hi everyone!
So it's been a long time since we've been building things in Horsefly and since we've properly updated you guys on what's going on. So what happened is last year, well not last year, this year.
This year, yeah, this spring.
So what happened this April is that we decided, instead of having our cabin as a recreational property, we decided that we wanted this to be our primary residence. So in BC, in order to be allowed to live in your house full-time, you need an occupation license, and in order to be able to have that, you have to have your house built with an owner builder license.
That's if you build it
if
yourself.
You build it yourself, that is, yes.
Yeah. So in order to do that, and we were in a bit of an issue because we had already started construction, but we started that construction all the while thinking it would be a seasonal cabin. So we did a special application at the Housing Authority in BC, and they approved our application, but there was still one hurdle that I needed to tackle, and that was to take the owner builder exam, which is a very hard exam that is mandatory to get your permit as an owner builder. But good news, I passed, did a lot of studying, took the exam, and they have approved our application. And now we are fully licensed to continue building our cabin and eventually live in it.
Yes. So that was quite the process, a lot of paperwork, a whole bunch of hassle. And then, of course, while we were in the permit process, we also didn't build anything here because you're not allowed to.
Yes.
And also we had a really busy summer anyways, so we did come up to Horsefly a few times. We did buy a small boat, which was a lot of fun. Someone doesn't want to get wet. Testing the motor. My favorite captain. And we even had our first Belgian visitor come up here. My mom visited us, and she actually was the first person to sleep in the cabin. we vacuumed everything, put up an air mattress, and so she could stay here, which was a lot of fun. But we're very excited now to finally start building again.
Yes.
First up is finish the electricity.
Absolutely.
And then we'll be insulating and drywalling.
Yeah.
Is that a word? No.
I think it
Putting
is.
up drywall.
Yeah. And so for the electricity, I did a lot of work with pulling wires. We still have to show you that footage back in spring. And we're picking things up where we left off. But because our license for the electricity required that we have an inspection every 6 months, that was almost running out. And so this morning, totally unexpected, the inspector came by here and he said, well, it's okay, I'll just do a quick inspection to see where you're at, but it won't be a full rough-in. But he had barely walked in and took a look around, and he said, well, what concerns me, you can just close up the walls and we're good to go. So we passed our rough-in inspection and full steam ahead from here.
Yeah, way to go, Yalger. I'm sure his meticulous work paid off.
Wow.
Well, we also want the electricity to be well done. We don't want to burn down our house. Like, we want to live here.
Yeah.
So we're not cutting any corners with that.
So overall, it's been a very stressful time for us, and we're very happy that that is now past us and we're back on track, building the cabin and making videos of it.
Yes, and we'll soon get a new delivery for all the installation.
Yes.
And I can't wait. It's actually really exciting to be back here and to be working at it again.
And we've got a lot of good stuff coming your way.
Yep.
So stay posted.
So as much as we love the deer, we're not very happy with the deer right now because they did a number on our poor little crab apple tree. We planted this tree a little bit as a symbolic thing. It was the first thing that we planted here because everything else was already here before we got here. So it's kind of like we hope to see this tree grow with us as we go along. But the deer feel different about that. So now we're going to fence this tree and make sure it survives.
No more deer on the apple tree.
Here's the tree next to Yalger. It's a little bit hard to film.
But they ate here, all the little branches.
Yeah.
Well, this one's okay, but here.
Yeah. But the top is still fine, so...
Oh, it'll pull through. But
yep.
We'll fence it, just to be sure.
Oh, perfect. We have more than we thought we had. Those are leftovers from when we did the concrete pouring.
Meet our scrap wood pile. One of many wood piles on our property.
Here it is, our hillbilly fencing. It'll stop the deer.
For sure.
Yes.
And
it's too much work for one tree with a few little knots.
Yeah.
There's plenty of food for them elsewhere.
And it's starting to snow, so we will wrap up out here.
Mm-hmm. Our fantastic contractor fell a couple of trees that were dead and urgently needed falling. And he did it so that we could easily still drive up our driveway. But of course now we have to buck them and clear everything away. And we're also like really surprised how tall those trees were. Like very tall. Came down there.
Hi everyone, we are back with a short Q&A. Just a few questions that we got asked on social media and YouTube, and we'd love to give you our answers. Let's get started.
So the first question, what were your criteria when looking for the land? Well, the criteria were very simple. What can we afford?
Pretty much that.
And the answer to that was like almost nothing except for this very forested and sloped piece of land.
And luckily things worked out, and you always see online and you hear that you should do your due diligence and your research, and all of that is very true. And we did none of that.
Actually, that's not entirely true. We did look at a couple of other places, and
True.
Yalger kept an eye on things like floodplains.
Yes,
Because
that was,
for some reason there's quite a few pieces of land in BC that have things like seasonal creeks, which in some cases actually means that your entire land will be flooded every spring.
or,
So
or even we were looking at properties that ended up to be in a 200 or 100 year floodplain.
yes.
Which means, technically speaking, there's a chance of once in 200 years that it would flood. But last November, we had one of those extremely rare events, and there was a lot of damage throughout the province, including washed-out highways and all that. So I'm happy that I looked at those aspects when looking at properties that we simply did not choose anything that was in any risk of flooding at all.
Yes.
So other than that, what were our criteria? Price.
Yes, price was the criterion.
And just work with what we have.
Yeah.
Which is what we're doing.
Yes. Anything else? Or can I ask the next question?
No, go for it.
No. All of the Cariboo is beautiful. Why did you choose horsefly? So we got to know horsefly through our work a couple of years before we purchased the land, and we became friends with the people that we met here. And so we got to know the environment and the community a little bit better, and we came on vacation here for a little bit, and we just...
A few times.
Yes, a few times. And we really like the overall vibe, and the people here are very nice. Everyone's very independent.
Laid back.
Laid back, yes. And an interesting mixture of immigrants, like older and newer, and
there are a lot of properties owned by European citizens too, who only come here for vacation, and there are a lot of ranchers too. So it's a good mixture.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, so that's why we picked horsefly.
This one's for Yalger. How are you learning and making decisions?
Oh man, how am I learning and making decisions? Research.
YouTube.
Lots and lots, endless hours of YouTube. A few books, if I can find them, and it depends on the subject. Say, framing is pretty universal between Canada and the US, and the main sources are, of course, always from the US. So I could rely on those sources. But for electrical and plumbing, there are differences in the codes for Canada. So I do consult a few American books, and there are as good as no Canadian books except for one that I found, and that one I do consult often. But YouTube is definitely my main research source. Go ahead.
And we're also lucky that in the local hardware store in Williams Lake, you're getting some tips from a guy who has a lot of experience in
yes, I'm working with the contractor desk, and the person who manages that is a former contractor, and I spend countless hours in his office
picking his brain.
Yeah, exactly. So he gives me a ton of advice and know-how tricks of the trade and all that I would never find online or in books. And then
It is good to know people.
Oh, definitely. Ask around, but do research on who your sources are, because
Yes, there's also people that think they know how to build things,
Yes.
and then so ask a few people, and if they
Yes.
say the same thing, it's probably right.
Exactly. So compare your sources, and usually you'll find that there's a common theme there. And that leads to how I make my decisions. I try to find the common themes. I do consult the actual building code, the actual electrical code. From my background as a lawyer, it's not an issue to understand the language in there. And that's also my background taught me to always consult the source text, which is the law, and that's why I consult the codes. And then I look at the practical applications in the books and YouTube and construction and contractors and so on.
What is the supply chain shortage?
Definitely. From the pretty much the moment when we started building the cabin, the lumber prices were skyrocketing, so that had its impact. Luckily, they came down in a short pocket before they went up again, and that's when we did our big lumber order for pretty much the whole cabin. But now that I'm doing interior work, I have to plan ahead a lot more, and I noticed that the supply chain keeps extending, as in I'm constantly in touch with the contractor desk at the hardware store, discussing the next steps of my plan and checking in how is the supply chain for that. And when I notice that it's getting tight, I just put the order in. They can set it aside for me. They can deliver it when we're here and when I'm ready for it. But I have to plan ahead a lot more than I would expect that it normally is, where you just buy it off the shelf.
Yes, like for the insulation, you were warned like there is a shortage. It can take several months, so best to order it now so you can get it within.
And prices have gone up too, because the price for the insulation between the roof, which was in October, and the insulation for the walls that I ordered now has gone up by 25% already for the same material.
Yeah, unfortunately.
And there's
and
no
we're
end in
still
sight,
we're still waiting for the ashtray of our stove as
And
well
that,
that we
yes.
ordered in October. So there's
So-
definitely several moving items that
Yeah.
come along whenever.
Yeah. And no end in sight,
No.
unfortunately. But we can only work with what we have.
That's true. It is what it is. And then the final question: do you have any other building plans?
Yes.
So many building
So
plans.
many building plans.
So the first thing we're going to build, hopefully this summer, is a storage shed with a wood shed attached to it. Because
Yeah.
we definitely need a space for all of our tools and equipment,
Yes.
because right now everything is inside of the cabin and it's a bit of a mess. So we definitely need a storage where it can be safe and dry, and the wood that you see behind us, well, very nice outside in between the trees. As soon as it snows or rains, like the top layer still get wet, and we want it to dry out for next winter. So we'll build that.
And then next is probably our sauna. We would like to build, we are going to build
Yes.
a wood-fired sauna. Just a little wooden complex. That'll be fun. And after that, we'll probably build another cabin, a tiny little, and that'll be a dry, full off-grid guest cabin, pretty much just a sleeping room with a little table and a chair and a deck. What else?
Well, yes, so the guest cabin, we're thinking if we want to have friends over or our parents come visit,
Yes.
or it would either mean that we have to leave the cabin and get back into the camper, which we don't want to. So that's why we're planning on building that guest cabin. What else? Well,
Eventually we'll build a workshop, as in an actual big workshop, not just a shed. And maybe a hot tub, a wood-fired hot tub, that would be
Yes, and in the 20 greenhouse, definitely. And in the 20-year plan, we hope maybe one day a big house.
Yeah.
But we'll see about that. That's not a priority.
For now, we're good with the cabin that we're building.
Yes, but this summer the shed will happen.
Yes, definitely. That is, we need that badly. Because as you can see in some of the videos, I'm moving the stuff around, and we just picked up some storage bins, and that helps, but it's still always back and forth depending on where I need to work in the cabin. So yeah, that's it for this Q&A.
Yeah, thank you for watching.
Yes, see you in the next one. Bye.